What if I told you that hidden away in vaults, locked in legal files, and buried in private collections, there are recordings of Michael Jackson that powerful people have spent millions of dollars trying to keep secret? Tapes that reveal the real Michael Jackson. Not the performer, not the icon, not the carefully crafted public image. The real man, unfiltered, unguarded, uncensored. Some of these tapes have leaked. Some have been used in court cases. Some have been the subject of legal battles that lasted decades. And some may never see the light of day. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret Michael Jackson tapes they never wanted released. What's on them? Why powerful people fought so hard to keep them hidden? And what they finally revealed about the most famous entertainer who ever lived. Buckle up, because this is going to change everything you thought you knew about Michael Jackson. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most famous secret tapes, the Martin Bashir interview recordings. In 2003, British journalist Martin Bashir released a documentary called Living with Michael Jackson. It was a bombshell. It showed Michael holding hands with a young boy named Gavin Arvizo. It showed him talking about sharing his bedroom with children. It portrayed him as strange, reckless, and potentially dangerous. The documentary was watched by 27 million people in the United Kingdom alone. It sent shockwaves around the world, and it ultimately led to Michael being arrested and charged with child molestation. But here's what most people don't know. Michael's team had their own cameras rolling during every single interview with Bashir. Every conversation, every interaction, every moment that Bashir captured, Michael's team captured too. And when Michael saw Bashir's finished documentary, he was furious because his version of those same conversations told a completely different story. In Bashir's version, Michael looked bizarre and inappropriate. But in Michael's version, the raw, unedited footage, the context was completely different. Conversations were cut short. Statements were taken out of context. Bashir's leading questions were edited out, making Michael's answers seem unprompted and strange. Michael's team released their own documentary using this footage called Michael Jackson, the footage you were never meant to see. In it, you can see moments that Bashir completely omitted. Times when Michael explained himself clearly and rationally. Instances where Bashir was warm and complimentary to Michael's face, only to turn around and narrate harshly in the final edit. In one stunning moment, Bashir is seen telling Michael, "Your relationship with your children is spectacular. It almost makes me weep." Then in the documentary, he narrates over similar footage implying Michael's parenting is concerning and inappropriate. The contrast is jaw-dropping. Michael argued that Bashir had manipulated the footage to destroy him. And when you see both versions side by side, it's hard to disagree. These tapes, the ones Bashir's team never wanted you to see, became central evidence in Michael's defense. And they raised serious questions about journalistic ethics and media manipulation that are still debated today. Now let's talk about something even more explosive, the secret phone call recordings. Over the years, multiple people in Michael's life secretly recorded their phone conversations with him. Some were business associates. Some were former employees. Some were people who claimed to be his friends. And the content of those recordings? Stunning. First, there are the Evan Chandler tapes. In 1993, Evan Chandler, the father of Jordan Chandler, who accused Michael of molestation, was secretly recorded by his own friend, David Schwartz, having a phone conversation about his plans to destroy Michael Jackson. In the recording, Chandler says, and these are his actual words, "If I go through with this, I win big time. There's no way I lose. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever." He talks about his plan to accuse Michael. He talks about the money he expects to receive. He talks about the damage it will do to Michael's career. This tape was explosive. It suggested that the original 1993 allegations were financially motivated, that a father was deliberately planning to accuse the biggest star in the world in order to get a massive payout. Michael's lawyers used this tape in their defense. But by the time it became widely known, the damage to Michael's reputation had already been done. The mainstream media barely covered it. The tabloids ignored it. The tape that could have changed public perception of the 1993 allegations was effectively buried. Then there are the recordings made by former associates and employees who claimed Michael said damaging things in private conversations. Some of these recordings were used in legal proceedings. Others were sold to tabloids, and others were kept secret for years, only to surface after Michael's death. What did they reveal? A man who was paranoid, lonely, and deeply mistrustful of the people around him. A man who knew that virtually everyone in his life had an agenda. A man who was, in many ways, a prisoner of his own fame. Not the monster his enemies portrayed. Not the perfect saint his fans wanted to believe in. Just a deeply human person struggling with an inhuman level of fame and scrutiny. Now let's talk about the Sony Tapes. In 2002, Michael Jackson stood up in front of a crowd of fans and said something that shocked the music industry. He called Sony Music CEO Tommy Mottola a devil and a racist. He claimed that Mottola was deliberately sabotaging his career, withholding promotion from his albums, and trying to force him out of his contract. It was an extraordinary public accusation from the biggest-selling artist in music history against the head of the biggest record label in the world. But what most people didn't know was that Michael had been secretly documenting his grievances against Sony for years. There were tapes, recorded conversations, business meetings where Michael or his associates had hidden recording devices, phone calls that were captured without Sony's knowledge. These recordings allegedly contained evidence of exactly what Michael was claiming, that Sony was deliberately undermining him, that there was racial bias in how they treated their artists, and that Mottola was personally orchestrating a campaign against Michael. Sony's lawyers fought aggressively to keep these tapes from becoming public. Some of the recordings were used in legal negotiations behind closed doors. Some reportedly still exist in the hands of Michael's estate. And some, sources claim, were destroyed during the legal battles that followed. What we do know is that Michael's contract dispute with Sony was eventually settled, and the terms were kept strictly confidential. But here's the thing. Michael's allegations about the music industry's treatment of Black artists resonated deeply. Other musicians came forward with similar stories. The conversation Michael started about racial bias in the record industry is still being had today. Those secret tapes, whatever they contained, clearly had enough power to force a multi-million-dollar settlement with one of the most powerful companies in the world. That tells you something. Now we get to the tapes that may be the most disturbing of all, the recordings involving Michael's doctors. After Michael's death in 2009, investigators discovered that Dr. Conrad Murray had made a secret recording of Michael Jackson on his phone. The recording was made approximately 3 weeks before Michael died. And what's on it is heartbreaking. Michael's voice is slurred. He sounds heavily sedated. He's rambling about his hopes for the This Is It tour. He talks about wanting to build a children's hospital. He talks about changing the world. But the way he speaks, the slurring, the incoherence, the disconnection from reality is deeply disturbing. Murray recorded this without Michael's knowledge. Prosecutors argued he recorded it to have leverage, or possibly to document Michael's state for his own legal protection. When this recording was played in court during Murray's trial for involuntary manslaughter, it shocked everyone in the courtroom. Jurors were visibly emotional. People in the gallery were in tears. This was the voice of Michael Jackson just weeks before his death. This was what the medications were doing to him. This was the reality that This Is. A documentary was carefully edited to conceal. But beyond the Murray tape, there were also recordings from other medical professionals who had treated Michael over the years. Doctors who had expressed concerns. Physicians who had warned that his prescription drug use was dangerous. Some of these recordings were used in the AEG lawsuit. Others were kept out of court on privacy grounds. And others, reportedly, were settled out of existence through confidential agreements. The medical tapes paint a picture of a man who was desperately unwell in his final years. A man who was failed by the people who were supposed to protect him. A man who needed help and instead got enablers. So what does all of this mean? What do these secret tapes, taken together, tell us about Michael Jackson? They tell us a few things. First, Michael Jackson was a man who was constantly being recorded, monitored, and documented without his knowledge. Journalists, business associates, doctors, employees. Everyone wanted a piece of him, and some of them were willing to capture it secretly. Second, many of the people in Michael's life had ulterior motives. They were around him not because they genuinely cared about him, but because of what they could get from him: money, fame, access, leverage. Third, the public narrative about Michael Jackson, both the attacks and the defenses, was heavily shaped by which recordings were released and which were suppressed. The full picture has never been made available to the public. And fourth, and this is perhaps the most important point, Michael Jackson knew all of this. He knew he was surrounded by people he couldn't fully trust. He knew his words were being recorded. He knew his actions were being watched. And yet he kept going, kept performing, kept creating, kept trying to connect with the world through his music. That's not the behavior of a guilty man hiding dark secrets. That's the behavior of a human being trying desperately to live a normal life under the most abnormal circumstances imaginable. The secret tapes don't reveal a monster. They reveal a man, complicated, flawed, brilliant, troubled, human. And that's a story far more interesting than anything the tabloids ever told you. Finally, let's talk about the tapes that may never see the light of day. Michael's estate controls a massive archive of recordings, videos, and documents. Some of this material has been released carefully and strategically, but a significant portion remains locked away. There are reportedly personal recordings Michael made himself, voice memos, private thoughts, creative ideas he dictated into a recorder late at night when he couldn't sleep. There are business recordings from meetings about deals, contracts, and negotiations that could expose the true nature of his relationships with record labels, promoters, and managers. And there are personal recordings, conversations with friends, family members, and confidants that would give the world an unfiltered glimpse into the private Michael Jackson that nobody outside his inner circle ever knew. Will these ever be released? Maybe, maybe not. The estate has a careful balancing act to maintain, protecting Michael's legacy while continuing to generate revenue from his work. Releasing certain tapes could be devastating. Releasing others could be vindicating. For now, they remain locked away, waiting. But one thing is certain, somewhere out there on hard drives and in vaults and in the memories of people who were there, the full truth about Michael Jackson's life is waiting to be told. And when it finally comes out, it will change everything. So there you have it, the secret Michael Jackson tapes they never wanted released, the Bashir footage, Chandler recordings, Sony evidence, the Murray tape, and the archives that may never be opened. Each one tells a piece of a story that the world has never fully heard. Each one challenges the narrative that's been pushed for decades, and each one reminds us that when it comes to Michael Jackson, the truth is always more complicated than what we've been told. What do you think? Should all of these recordings be made public? Does the world deserve to know the full truth, or are some things better left private? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the untold stories behind the King of Pop's extraordinary life, smash that like button and subscribe to King of Pop. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching. The truth matters. Michael's legacy matters. And as long as this channel exists, we'll keep searching for both. Peace.